Tigers. Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Lovely. So we got we have it in here. So let's begin. Hello and welcome. This is the March, end of March senatorial debate. Okay. So to begin, I'm gonna just go through our questions. So, Ark, from an anonymous submission, we have: do you believe that the admin team has too much influence over the government and its affairs?
Well, I will start by saying I'm blatantly biased because for anyone who does not already know, I am a part of the administration team. I do not believe that we have that much influence because in my personal experience as an administrator, I've found that I don't like overreaching or influencing the in-character, in-game aspects of our community. I'm only here to try to keep things on an out-of-character perspective safe, allow, things to be productive. So I do not believe that we have too much influence over the government.
Okay. Everybody who's typing, you can type out those responses as we go. Okay. Dome, you have your mic unmuted.
Yes.
Could you give us your response to that question?
I've only been in the region for a short time, and I would definitely have to say no to that question. This is not a dig. It's actually probably a good thing, but I haven't seen the admin team have to do too much stuff anyways, so definitely not too much influence on the government, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you for your response. Okay, Government Infinity, do you have no, your mic is off. North Pledgio, would you like to speak your response?
I think he's just listening. I don't think he's a candidate.
Oh, shoot. The one person who isn't in the running for Senate?
Yes.
This region. Okay.
All competing for his vote.
Thatcher, could we have your response, please?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Glac. You're doing an exceptional job with the newspaper. I really appreciate that you put this debate together. We often don't have a chance to have these debates. I would have to agree with Ark. He said that he had a blatant bias. As the chief admin, I also have a blatant bias. But as Ark said, there is a separation between in character and out of character, which is blatantly and very clearly defined by the statement regarding the role of the admin team. And I don't think the admins really try to affect the in-character government when it's not appropriate. So, of course, serving as advisors with the law is fine, but obviously trying to influence the region in undue ways is inappropriate and unacceptable.
Okay. And I would like to note that Comlogical, the editor of Flaming Truth, is my co-host for this debate. They are not talking at the moment. And for the viewers at home, I would like to read out the answers provided in text. From Nova, we have the answer, quote, I do not believe that the admin team has massive influence over the government. However, I recognize that there seems to still be some confusion regarding the out-of-character and in-character divide. Government Infinity says, I don't believe the admin team has too much influence over government. From what I've seen, they've used their powers only to keep the region safe and deliver justice as needed, unquote. Comlogical says, I believe that the administration team needs more accountability in their conduct of their duties. I think likewise that they sometimes do overstep their responsibilities, but most of the time, though, they do conduct their duties in a respectful manner. Would anyone like to respond to the answers we have given so far?
I make a response?
Yes, you may. So
I'd like to respond to Comlogical's point. I believe it's a he, said that there were that more accountability is needed, and I agree. The admin team is always, from what I've seen, is always open to new perspectives. And somewhere in the admin team statement, it does say that that the input of the people is key. So making sure that the people do have venues to hold the admin team to account. And from what I've seen and from serving on the team, I hope that we take those perspectives into account as generously as possible.
Okay, so that is everything for our first response, unless...
I would also like to respond. I do not disagree. I don't disagree with Comlogical or Thatcher, to be clear. To Thatcher, I would say that community input definitely does matter. It's vital. But there are also certain things that we have to take a hard stance with. And I know that that can sometimes make people upset, and it's definitely not intended. And to Comlogical, I would ask that I don't know if we want to keep doing responses to responses here, but if possible, after this, I would be more than happy to have a discussion with you and everyone else. I don't care who's involved in the discussion about ways that we can be more accountable.
Okay, thank you. Our second question from an anonymous submission is, what is your opinion on the role play? And I would, as moderator, like to add your view on just how it affects the region and its role generally. So we're going to start from the bottom this time. Thatcher, can I have your response? Okay, we'll come back to you. Dome.
Oops, sorry. I started talking. Sorry, I started talking, but I didn't unmute myself. Sorry. So starting. I believe that the role play has a great and positive effect on the community. I've seen so many of our members come from role play, and they're just wonderful. I'm doing everything that I can to promote the role play via either the master dispatch, either adding them to our guide. As we've seen, we've been going through it and going over dispatches recently, adding them to the World Factbook entry, but also I support Union Craft and Roleplay in their efforts to embellish our community here in the Union.
Well,
okay, would anyone like to respond?
well, a response should probably be after everyone goes.
Okay,
no?
yeah. Dome, do you have can I have your answer?
Yeah. So, especially from my time with the Senate Resident Outreach Committee and the responses that I got from that, I think that the role of role play for regional development needs expansion on, because some of the responses that we got from residents were surrounding how the reason they're playing nation states is not how like what we're playing it as in like politics here. It's more for just building the ideal nation. So if we can advertise the role play even more than we have so far, I really think that could be of great benefit to the region in increasing our resident to citizen conversion rate. And answer.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And Ark's gone.
Ark is gone. So I think the rest of our responses are going to be in text.
Yes.
So we'll wait for those. If Thatcher would like to respond to yours, or you would like to respond to theirs in the meantime, that is welcome.
I think we had pretty similar responses there.
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
Did you answer the question, or are you doing that after?
I think I'm gonna answer them in a document later.
All right, fair enough.
If Comlogical would like, I don't know. I feel weird answering them as the host, but I might start doing that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Okay. So we have from Nova, roleplay, quote, roleplay is a vital part of our region. As besides politics and the community we have, is the other institution that allows our people to be more involved with the region. Roleplay should be perhaps expanded or more publicized in our region so that more people can join. From my experience, when I was involved with roleplay, it definitely needs more activity. Okay. From Government Infinity, we have the role play is great for activity and for members to have some fun. helps foster collaboration, creativity, and brings out the best in everyone. We aren't as active as we used to be, but as Minister of Culture, I'm working with the government officials to advertise, and I remain somewhat active as staff to lead by example. I also give credit to my entire staff, Duck, Com, Phoenix, for the great work they've done. Okay. Comlogical says, way back in 2018, the roleplay ministry was the only thing that helped me stay in the Union. This has a massive impact in the region for me. It was the only refuge from the countless constitutional conventions that we passed through, and of course, it is central to the game, to nation states as a whole, and to the community as well. It needs more buffs, though, and I'd like to support them as long as possible. Okay? So Nova's left the chat for now. So I would like to ask the third question from an anonymous person. How do you feel about DM campaigning? So, Dome, could you go first?
Yeah. Personally, I actually utilized that in the first campaign that we had, following the instructions laid out in the election rules. They were all personalized. It wasn't just spam. And I think that direct messaging in that way is actually pretty important because it makes citizens that aren't running and that normally wouldn't be contacted by government more involved in the region. So I think the campaign that way is actually a good thing.
Oh, and I would just like to add, if anyone would like to respond to the previous prompt, to previous people's responses, they can do that now. Okay, so we'll continue. Thatcher, how do you feel about DM campaigning?
I have mixed feelings on it. I think it is both good and bad, as most things are. So I think it's good for raising issues, for notifying citizens, and for getting citizens involved. It's definitely good in that regard, but it is bad when it turns into spam. I believe that recently we've had a lot of DM campaigning that has been positive to the region in terms of not serving as simple spam, but we have to work towards regulating that, I believe.
Okay. So we have some text responses coming in, and I would, speaking personally as a candidate, I think that GM campaigning is decent in small quantities, but I would certainly want us to be on the watch for becoming spammy and more of a burden to our residents than a help. Okay. Do we have any voice responses to the voice answers that we've gotten so far?
I think I'll just wait till we get text responses.
Yeah.
I would just add that so long as DMs remain thoughtful, I think that they serve a positive purpose. But as you said, that line is the moment it turns into spam. That's when we have a problem on our hands.
Okay, from Government Infinity. Quote, I've DM campaigned for one server, but only because it was a necessity. Ideally, no candidate would have to campaign in order to win elections, and though I can see benefits to bring out voters, it can easily turn into spamming messages to people or simply turn to seeing how many votes you can get without putting out policies. I'm fine with people who have semi-personal messages and platforms when they DM campaign. End quote. Comlogical says, it's good for raising awareness amongst our citizens in our regional issues, but if it's used in a manner where it may be invasive or spam, it's not any more good. Though I'd like to add that DM campaigning is not recommended unless it's really, really necessary, end quote. So I think that's all the responses we're going to get for right now. Again, if anyone would like to submit questions, they can do so in DM through that Google form or just saying it in the chat. Okay, so our fourth question right now.
Can I just add a little thing on to that, actually?
Yes.
I actually do think how it's said here that it shouldn't be recommended unless it's really, really necessary. And I do think that for our region, it is really, really necessary because I believe the citizenship list is at 45 citizens now. And currently, all candidacy documents are here on the Discord or on the forum. So I feel if you aren't campaigning in that way, then people that don't check the forum, of which there are a lot, would be missing out on this information.
Thank you.
I'd like to. Can I add a response to Dome's response?
You may.
I have to agree with Dome. I think that the DM campaigning is an important part of the process, so long as it doesn't turn into spam, as you've said.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
Our fourth question. Why should I elect you to the Senate? And we will go with Thatcher first.
Yeah. Well, I believe that people should elect me because I am an experienced hand, both in terms of the region and in terms of the legislature. I served as speaker in the previous term, and I believe that my leadership, under my leadership, we will continue to pass fundamental laws that our region needs and that our body of law requires. This election is important because it is. Because we must continue to pass these fundamental laws. Otherwise, otherwise we will continue to have constitutional conventions. So if we want this constitution to stick to the wall, we have to continue passing these fundamental laws.
Okay. Dome, can I have your response? Your answer.
So yeah, I've made clear mention of why I think I should be in this Senate, why I felt I should have been in the last Senate, or it was in the last Senate, and that is activity. I feel activity is the be-all and end-all for any government official, and I am confident that I will continue to be able to provide consistent levels of activity to the region and in the service of the Senate.
Okay. And again, speaking as a candidate and not as the moderator of this debate, I would like to very quickly state that I think that I hope to be elected to another term in the Senate because I have been active in the drafting and passing of almost every law that we have gotten through. I hope to serve on the Senate half of our standardization format committee, which obviously is the law I helped write, and hopefully will keep our laws orderly and standardized. And I hope people see that I have stood up for our Constitution and for our rules and procedures, even when that has been not earned me earned me favors in our Senate. But I think that it's important never to sideline our principles for speed or for convenience. Okay. Do you have any responses? Okay. So right now we're waiting on text answers to these questions. We're in a little okay. Comlogical says, quote, "Our never-ending work keeps flowing in the Senate, and as a gal who has been in multiple terms in the Senate, I'm willing to lead by example and experience amongst our fellow senators, government officials, and our everyday citizens as a whole. As stipulated in my campaign platform, I still have goals to go for, and 2 months is never enough for those." End quote.
I add a response.
You may.
Well, I see that Com said that she is a gal, and I believe I called you a he earlier, so I wanted to apologize for that.
Okay, thank you. Oh. Never mind.
Gotta apologize again.
Well, I apologize again.
Okay, so we have a correction from the gallery. Comlogical is a male gal. Government Infinity says, "You should vote me for Senate because I have great experience, 2 years, enough time to remain active so that I can be a productive part of government, and I have accomplished several things in the previous Senate. that includes some government transparency laws, amendments to existing bills, and amendments to the Constitution. My greatest achievement was finally getting us a new Constitution, which I'll work to amend when necessary or pass bills to strengthen. Getting that done took a lot of motivation, and that's what I will be bringing to table this term. End quote. Right? Thank you. Do we have any responses? Okay. And we do allow responses in text form if someone would like to give them. So, unfortunately, we had a little less participation than we would have liked.
Did you want to? Oh, did you already answer the question? Never mind. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I answered the question.
Yeah.
So, right now, I'm going to ask some of my questions. And the first one is, how do you view the construction of our judicial system? Sorry. How do you believe the judicial system should be structured, and what power should be given to the justices? Can I have Dome give a response first?
Yeah. All right. So we've taken our first steps to answering this kind of question with the amendments that we brought to the floor of the Senate at the end of the term. And I think that for now is all the input that I can offer on it about giving justices the power to have their legal precedence. Yeah, unfortunately, even though this is one of my goals, I don't have the experience in this area for right now.
And specifically, this question refers partially to the format of a trial and the investigation system, which was adopted as part of the pre-trial prosecutorial system in the previous constitution. Okay, Thatcher, can I have your response? I know you have some opinions on this.
Sure. Well, I wanted to first note that I believe that the primary responsibility of the judicial system is to protect civil liberties and to prosecute crimes. After that, I think that the system has to be based to allow the court to hear cases with absolutely an appeal system, so that decisions can be overturned just in case ill decisions were originally made. I believe that the court needs to be enabled to set legal precedents when asked. This doesn't mean creating law. It doesn't mean issuing executive orders. It simply means clarifying what the existing law says. I believe that the role of the Minister of Justice is to prosecute crimes, and that in that system, the Minister of Justice can help investigate and every member of the nation can be protected by the legal bar association that we are working on setting up. So I believe that we're in a good direction in setting up our court system in the UDS.
Okay. Okay, we have someone who's joined the voice chat just recently. Okay. So, Comlogical says, quote, our Minister of Justice, Britalia, is restructuring the PAA exam into a general unionist law comprehension exam, where it's something I'd like to implement when I was the Attorney General back then. Our Chief Justice could sort of review every bill passed, as in the old Constitution, to ensure the constitutionality of those passed laws. And Government Infinity says, well, I think the judicial system has to interpret laws we pass, prosecute anyone who violates laws, and maintain an independent branch of government. Like that said, it should have the ability to set precedent and investigate. Is it Hakeem or Hasim? I forgot. You said Hakeem? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a response you'd like to give? Okay, hard C. I know you told us like yesterday, but I'm dumb.
Oh, that's the entire response. Next question.
Okay, so Hakeem's position on the judicial system is hard C. Okay, does anyone have a response so far?
Hello, I'm back.
Okay. Ark.
Yeah.
Our current question at hand is, how do you believe the judicial system should be structured, and what powers should be given to the justices? It's in the voice chat channel too as well.
Gotcha. One moment.
Okay. Hakeem says, generally the same ideals Comlogical. I strongly agree with the role of the Chief Justice. Okay, and we're waiting for Ark's response at the moment.
Yeah, I largely agree with what we've seen so from the responses. In terms of the ability to set precedents, that's obviously a vital way of establishing case law. Investigative capabilities, I'm not entirely sure that the entirety of the Supreme Court should have that ability, but it wouldn't necessarily be bad if they were able to appoint a temporary independent special investigator to investigate cases. I think that would be a good idea.
All right. Does anyone have a response?
A comment on what Ark said?
Yes, you may.
In the vein that, I forget who said it. Yeah, it looks like Tanisha said it. In the vein of what Tanisha said, and having an impartial, an independent branch in the form of the judicial branch of government, I'd like to say that I agree with what Ark said, and I don't believe that the same people who get to decide cases should also be the same people investigating. There has to be some sort of a special prosecutorial system in place.
Okay. Any responses? Any further responses? Oh, looks like Tanisha has something to say. And we have a comment response from Tanisha that says, that independent prosecutor system is good, and I could see a role for public attorneys in it. I'd like to see where Brit goes with the program right now. And Ark and Thatcher have signaled their concurrence with that. Okay. Our sixth question. Okay. So, sorry, it's taking me a second.
Zach, did you get a chance to respond to that question?
Oh, I did not. Sorry. Okay. So I think that I don't believe that the Minister of Justice is always the best person to prosecute a certain crime. So I think that we need to have flexibility for complaints to be brought up and tried by someone else, like an independent investigator, something like that, especially because the court is primarily going to be trying things of sort of a corruption or interpretive nature that will almost always involve the executive branch of government. So I think that it's necessary to have a good safeguard. So if the Minister of Justice has some sort of conflict of interest that they can be supplanted for a time, or someone else can prosecute. If anyone would like to ask, oh, yes, you may respond.
I agree with what Glax said. The Minister of Justice is simply that. They are just the chief prosecutor. So that doesn't mean, I believe that every citizen needs to be enabled to initiate prosecutorial proceedings. That's something that I think is important to hold everybody to account. Every citizen needs to be empowered to initiate prosecutorial proceedings.
Okay. So we have a question.
Yeah,
So,
I'm typing it.
No, I have a question from Dome right now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So, okay. Why did no one consider stepping up to chairperson of the General Assembly when that position was left vacant for a decent length of time? And they know to me that it's not meant to be hostile. And this is specifically to people who aren't currently sitting as senators. If you were an assembly member in the previous term.
It's a great question.
Is there a specific order that we're going in to answer that, or?
Okay. Ark, you go first. You're at the top of the list.
Okay. Well, to start, I would say that my interest in being further involved in the UDS in an in-character fashion, as in beyond merely being a citizen, that interest only really sparked recently, like as recently as the election campaigning period starting, essentially. And I also hold positions outside of this region in other regions that takes up the majority of my time in nation states. As such, I did not think that it was necessarily my place, nor healthy for me activity-wise at the time to attempt to step up in any way, because I don't think that I would have been able to do the job justice at the time.
Okay, thank you. So from Tanisha, we have the response to the question. Quote, I would have if I could, but third quarter of school and extracurricular activities had kept me busy. I'd assume a lot of other people were either busy or were not interested in running, end quote.
Ask a follow-up to those same individuals?
Okay, right now we're gonna have responses at the end, I believe. Hakeem says, personally, I was not prepared yet to step back into UDS politics at this point. Comlogical, if I were not a senator, I could assume it, but as national research competitions kept me busy from January up till February, I would have been better off giving it to a person who's actually active and willing to step up. Nova says, I believe it was due to inactivity, or perhaps there was no interest in the job. It's difficult to say why many prominent people did not aspire to assume that office. As for me, since I am deputy chairperson, I would say that I had many things going on in my life. And when I got more free, I took up Pursuer's offer to be his deputy. I believe many people still had many things to do in real life until now. And Dome Artan notes that it was only for those who were incumbents, but thanks, Comlogical, for the response. Okay. Now, Thatcher, you can respond. Ask your follow-up
I'd
question.
like to drop my question.
Okay. Okay. And we have a question incoming from Ark. What are your thoughts on the current campaigning/election process, and what, if any, reforms would you like to see? And I will give this question first to Thatcher.
Cut out at the end. Is that question for me?
Yes. Actually, we have someone typing in in the chat. I'd just like to make sure that they aren't. Okay, here we go. Thatcher, what are your thoughts on the current campaigning/election process, and what, if any, reforms would you like to see?
Well, I believe that we need to reinstate a lot of our previous rules with regard to previous constitutions that we've had and our previous body of law. But I'd like to first and foremost state that our number one and primary responsibility is to make sure that we don't muddle the waters between in character and out of character crime. So however we go about it, either through admin channels, through admin stated rules, or through in character election law, I believe that discussion of elections needs to be limited to on Discord to the designated channel. The R&B cannot be spammed, and that the permission to use region-wide telegrams cannot be used to win elections or to mass campaign or mass spam posters or something.
Okay, thank you. Dome, would you like to give an answer to this question?
Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the campaigning election process that's been ongoing for this and the last couple elections. The only thing would be having. I know we want to avoid R&B spam, but I think you do need to have campaigning in a limited sense on there, because that's the most likely spot that you're going to have residents see it. Even though residents can't vote, you'd still want them to see it. Have residents see it, have citizens that aren't involved on the Discord or the offsite forum see it. And I get the whole spam thing, but I think the regional message board should be fair game for campaigning.
Okay. So we have a response from. Oh wait, is there anyone else in the? Oh, Ark, would you like to give a response to the question?
Yes, I would. Obviously, I do echo Thatcher's sentiment that we absolutely should make a clear separation between what facets of the election require admin participation in any way, because as everyone who's been present today knows, it's definitely something that is cause for concern, and I do not want the admin team to be any more involved in character things than it needs to be. I also very much do agree with Dome. I think that the R&B could actually benefit from being sort of open season for campaigning. I think that spamming and double and triple posting is not necessarily okay, but I don't believe that talking about your campaign or just posting like a brief paragraph about what your campaign stands for, your platform, I think that all of that would be perfectly fine. I don't think that would be icky at all. I think if anything, the R&B is essentially the perfect place to do that.
Okay, and now I will read our text responses. Comlogical says, quote, "Decade's boring list of rules is basically the election rules, and I'd like to keep it that way. Though I'd like to have a 3-day period of campaigning period, though." Nova says, "Campaigns and other such related things should be limited and regulated both by regional law for stuff like electoral pacts and related, and by the admins for less spamming. Even though Discord is somewhat active, some campaigning should be allowed on the R&B, as more people might see the campaigns and possibly be more interested in getting involved in our region." Nisha says, "I'd like to see us having some sort of way to campaign on the R&B, but we do need strict regulations on that. Other than looking into ways to address DM campaigning, I think the rules are good." Hakeem says, "Seeing as though a great deal of users are not on the Discord, campaigning on the R&B is much better as a means of reaching towards the entire union, not just the Discordian regulars." Do we have any responses here or in text?
I do have a response for Tanisha. I am curious as to whether or not the region necessarily feels that DM campaigning really needs to be addressed. I know that some people consider it somewhat icky I largely believe that it's not, unless it gets to a spammy or harassment point, I don't believe it's necessarily icky, and I think that if it turns out to be a bad strategy, then people will stop doing it. Otherwise, I don't really think that it's necessarily something that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Tanisha, if you'd like to reply, I will let you do that.
Well,
Tanisha's writing that. May I add a response?
What? I think we're having a counter response from Tanisha to Ark's question. Okay, we might have some Nova miking. I'm gonna put out a call for questions again. Otherwise, we will be wrapping up soon. Tanisha says, what I was thinking about was ways to make sure it doesn't get into harassment, spamming, or DMing until a person votes for you. Again, there is a role for DM campaigning, but I'd like to make sure it remains in control. Okay. So I think that's it. Actually, would...
Can I add a comment?
Oh, you may.
Well, I'd like to respond. Dome mentioned RMB campaigning and opening that up, and Arc. It looks like Arc, Nova, and Hakeem worked on or discussed opening that up. I agree. I was there when that rule was implemented. It was implemented because there was RMB spam going on, and it turned into vote blank for Senate, vote blank for Senate, vote blank for Senate, and it got old real fast. So I'd like to see something done to make it more of a controlled environment, but I'd also like to add that in years past, we used to have candidates submit statements of like something like 250 characters or less, and then that would be attached to the telegram that would announce the ballot. So that's something to consider as well. That way, each candidate has a platform, and each voter who gets the ballot has a direct access to where the candidate stands on issues.
I didn't want to be rude, but can people hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ah, nice. Okay.
Nova.
Okay. Now, would Arc or Nova anyone like to go back through and respond to questions they missed?
Yes.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay. So, tell me which questions you were there for.
So we had.
Do you believe the okay? Do you the admin team?
Let's see. When did I leave?
Okay. About DM campaigning.
Which
did you
one?
get that one, Arc? DM campaigning.
Sorry, wasn't that the one that we just asked?
No, that was a previous question.
No, I don't think I did get that one.
Okay. Nova, do you get that one?
No.
Okay. So for Arc first, how do you feel about DM campaigning?
Well, as I just said, I do not feel that it's necessarily as inappropriate or rude as it's perceived to be. But I also recognize that there are people in the region that do feel that way. I generally believe that if it's a strategy that works for you, it's okay. But if it gets into spamming territory, or harassment territory, it does fall under the purview of administration, because we do enforce the rules of the server in DMs as well. But to more clearly expand on that, before you start to believe that we police people's DMs, we do not. We operate purely on a report-based basis, because obviously, we are not going to go through everybody's DMs or anything like that, but we can't do anything about harassment or spamming if people don't tell us that is happening to them. But when that's happening in a way that pertains directly to our server, and not to other servers or to just between those two people, we are willing to take action against them for that.
Okay, Nova.
But sorry, just one last thing.
Nope. Yep.
I am also not entirely sure if any in-character legislation could benefit that. Possibly, more strict specifications for what you can include in your DM campaigns. I do not think that is inherently a bad idea. If anything, that would actually make the admin jobs easier, because people would have clear expectations and they would be less likely to engage in moderation action worthy, DM campaigning.
Okay, Nova?
I'm going to agree with Ark. Personally, I've only had 2 people who've DM campaigned me, but if it gets maybe spammy or something like that, possibly it can be regulated somehow.
Okay. Now, did anyone miss the question, why should I elect you to the Senate? Has anyone not answered that question yet?
I have not answered that question yet.
Okay. You can go first.
Yes, so,
No, wait.
I didn't either. I was just saying I didn't. Yeah, go on.
Okay. Hakeem, actually, no, you're in text. So, Nova, can you answer that question first?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not
You can
not
pause
much of a believer in talking about myself, but I'll just say this: if I have to tell you why you should elect me, then probably don't vote for me.
Okay. Ark.
As far as why you should elect me, I would say that for starters, I bring a lot of experience to the table here. I have been a citizen of the North Pacific, which is the largest and one of the most active regions in the game. I have been a citizen of the East Pacific, which is another large active region. I have been a citizen of Europia, which is a region that a lot of the UDS's institutions were based on, because we wanted to follow a very successful example. I have been citizen in these regions several times over the last, or not several times, but for long periods of time over the last 3 years. I have a lot of experience in gameplay, but at the same time, I have also never actually served in a legislative position here in the Union of Democratic States. So I'm also bringing something hopefully different from what everyone is used to in terms of a background and experience.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to get some responses, some question answers from Hakeem soon. If anyone would like to respond to what Ark or Nova have said, they may do so. Okay. I'm going to scroll back up. Did anyone miss the question, how do you believe the judicial system should be structured and what power should be given to justices?
Oh, my mic wasn't on. Yes, I did.
You missed that one, or did you answer it?
I missed that one.
Okay. Could I have your response to that?
Okay, yeah. What was the question again?
How do you believe the judicial system should be structured, and what powers should be given to the justices?
For structured, to be honest, I think that we should leave that up to the I can't talk. Up to the judicial system on how to structure things. As for powers, as in many other regions I've been in, I have been a strong proponent for independence of the judiciary. So rather than perhaps amend the Supreme Court's powers, I would rather have the Supreme Court interpret what its own powers are.
Okay. Ark, did you get a response to that question before?
Yes, I was able to answer that question.
Okay. I think Hakeem will have. Oh, yes.
Can I ask
Would you
a
like
question?
to give a response?
Well, could I ask for a clarification of a previous response with regard to the courts?
Yes, you may.
I don't want to put you on the hot seat, Glac, but can I ask you a question about your position on the courts?
You may.
A lot of people who have spoken so far have expressed their support for having the court be the people who decide cases and write out verdicts, but aren't the people who investigate. Can you defend your position of an inquisitorial legal system over an adversarial system?
So I think that my position has evolved a bit over time. I would say that presently, I think a good compromise position is that in some cases the Supreme Court should be able to appoint an independent investigator, somebody who can, and give them powers to collect evidence, and something more than the average citizen would have, so that they can find out whether a crime has been committed, in order to, if there's grounds to prosecute, and so that they can prosecute that, rather than having the Attorney General do that when it's not appropriate for the Attorney General or the Minister of Justice
Gotcha.
to be doing that.
So would you support then using that report in an adversarial system, allowing the defendant to have someone to defend them, and to have a court prosecutor, that kind of a thing? Bring that.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, as long as I think it's important to have a more independent person being involved.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think you and I are on the same page there.
Okay. So responding to our first question, I believe, do you believe that the admin team has too much influence over the government and its affairs? Hakeem has said, I do find it slightly troubling how much the roles of admin and government overlap, and I hold absolutely zero animosity to any of the admins, but that much power consolidated in one position for that long is just iffy. And Ark, I believe you would like to make a response.
Yes, I would. I am glad that you do not hold animosity towards us. I would like to make it clear that while we do occasionally come off as adversarial, it is not intended to be that way. For starters, specifically to address the end of your statement, Hakeem, when you said that that much power consolidated in one position for that long is just iffy, I would like to make it clear that the type of power you're talking about is completely different from the type of power that you wield in a government position. I, as an admin, cannot tell you how to think, cannot tell you how to feel, and cannot tell you which causes you should and shouldn't support and such. All I can do is ensure that your behavior in expressing your ideals and playing this game fits our standards for what keeps the community healthy. And that is ultimately all of our goals. We volunteer. This is not supposed to be a prestigious position. This is not supposed to be something where, when you become an admin, you're the top dog in the region. as far as the roles overlapping, it is not easy, in my experience, to ensure that they overlap. Not at all, because admins are often the most active citizens, so it's not uncommon for us to hold in-character roles in addition to our out-of-character role as admins. But I understand the concern there. I understand that there can be conflicts of interest. And in addition to that, as far as how the duties overlap or how the jurisdictions overlap, the most simplistic way I can say this is that in reality, they do not. It's just a matter of how clearly we need to delineate where they are. And we have more than once made statements about how our in-character and out-of-character duties differ between the government and admins. But the issue is that every problem that the government or the admins face is going to be different. We often encounter issues where there could be some blurriness, and there is no one-size-fits-all thing that I can say that is like, this is absolutely IC, this is absolutely OOC. It tends to be, there's a general rule of thumb, like, when something involves two players treating each other as people and not as nations or as citizens within an in-game government, that is out of character. That is always out of character. It is not negotiable whether or not that's out of character. But there are situations where, people use, out of character means to affect changes in character. And that's where it can be blurry. And that's where the admins kind of have to say on a case-by-case basis, we've decided that this is in character, we've decided this is out of character. But we do not mean to say, we're not trying to overreach, because in reality, it is not fun to do our job. We recently had to ban a member of the community who's been there longer than almost everybody here. That was not fun. It was unpleasant for us. It was stressful for us. And we don't want to overreach at all. That is not our desire.
Okay. Did you all respond? Oh, okay. Okay, so Hakeem has made another question. Oh, first I would like to note that they are in no way accusing any admins of abusing their power. And their answer to question 2, which was, what is your opinion on the RP? I find that the RP, the roleplay, has changed a grand deal over time, from the people to the combat, the nations, and the flow of time itself. I used to be very active and one of the only people to run multiple nations at the same time for an extended period. The RP can serve as a place to bolster activity, like the times during the first ConCon. There's also seen serious periods of inactivity. I always hope for the best for the health of the RP. Would anyone like to respond to that?
I wouldn't necessarily like to respond, but I also missed that question. So may I answer it?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. In the amount of time I've played Nation States, which is going on 4 years now, I have only dabbled in roleplay a couple of times and never particularly seriously. So I will be honest in saying that my experience in roleplay is very limited, and any skills I have in organizing or running or participating in a roleplay for our purposes should be considered non-existent. But I recognize that roleplay is fun, and that is ultimately what this is about: fun, enjoyment, and camaraderie. So in my capacity as a senator, I would only seek to give the roleplay the tools it needs to succeed and stay active consistently. And I would also be very hands-off in terms of, the running of it. I think that roleplay works best when it's allowed to flourish and be run by role players. because if I was trying to run a role play, I would run it directly into the ground, like without a doubt.
Okay, Nova, did you respond to that question?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So the question following that, why should I elect you to the Senate? Did anyone miss that one? Did we already go over that?
I believe so, but I don't think Hakeem got to respond to that yet.
Okay. Okay, so we'll get to that one soon. If anyone has some last minute questions they'd like to ask everybody, that is an option.
I don't necessarily have a question. I do have a comment though.
Okay, you may proceed.
I can't necessarily bring up any examples right now, but I felt that in a lot of the platforms and campaign statements I saw, it was a lot of, we're going to entice new citizens to join. We're going to bring activity to union craft. We're going to bring activity to play. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm dying right now.
Rip.
You need help?
Hope he meant his phone.
I hope so.
Yeah, that'd be something.
we just hear gunshots.
Oh no.
Can you imagine?
He would prefer not to. Glac, please continue living. That's in order.
Craig killed Black. No, we should not have trusted Craig.
I know, made him admin. He's taken over.
He's gone to the dark side.
He releases a statement. Thatcher, indefinite ban. Thatcher Whitehall.
Craig Cood UDS. Hey, what does this acronym mean here?
What?
AFAIK. I've seen it a couple of times. I have no idea what it means.
Oh, it means as far as I know.
Okay.
I guess just so I don't lose my train of thought, could I finish the statement I was going to say?
Yes.
Wait, did he leave?
This is being recorded, so I assume that it would be okay for you to make your statement.
Yeah.
I mean, Com is the co-host, so.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, Com. You should take over as co-host right now.
Agency powers.
There's no more questions left, Com. It's just Thatcher making a statement.
Yeah. So you just have to give him permission to make a statement, really.
Oh.
Back.
Com gives permission, by the way. Oh, there he is.
Back.
Clack!
It's Craig speaking. I have consumed Glac's body. Now I will be the moderator.
I'm back.
Oh, there you go.
Thank everything.
Okay.
That was awkward.
We were honestly plotting a rebellion against Craig because we were pretty sure he'd assassinated you.
Conspiracy abounded.
So I think you just have to give Thatcher permission to continue his statement.
Yeah. Can you continue what you said?
Yep, sure. I can't pull up any examples right now, but I remember reading a little bit in people's platforms and in people's campaign statements, such phrases as "We're going to support the role play," "We're gonna revitalize union craft," "We're going to bring back activity," and I just wanted to say that I think that all candidates have the best intention for the legislature, but I believe that as legislatures, we have to prioritize legislating, and that activity, yes, needs to be on the forefront of our minds as legislators. As legislators, I think we also have a duty to participate and to probably serve as a deputy minister or junior minister. But at the same time, in the role of senator, it's not our job to prop up union craft or prop up role play. Whereas it's our job to pass legislation and make sure that we get fundamental laws put in place.
Okay. Okay, so I'll read Hakeem's response when it comes. Would anyone like to respond to what Thatcher said? Okay.
Someone must have included it in their platform. Unless Thatcher's just making it up. Not saying he is. Not saying he is.
Thatcher's sliding into my DM.
I don't think I even put a platform. Wait, no, I did, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
in
you
the
did in the
forums.
campaign channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I would say that platforms are trying to emulate a real-world political platform is a little silly.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of ledge issues that we have. You know, there's no.
I mean,
no
besides
one's-
the fact that we have one law right now.
It's it's mostly like activity and your sort of vague values. There's no one's getting an abortion on nation states.
Speak for yourself.
No one.
Battle now.
There's not big divisive things.
Yeah, there we go. That works.
Well, okay, there are definitely very divisive issues on nation states, just not issues that we as a region are divisive on, if that makes sense.
Yes, I meant like in terms of the Senate elections in that context.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have our response to why should I vote for you for Senate from Hakeem. I'm a man who and this is what he said. I'm a man who prioritizes individuals. I have witnessed this region at its peak, but I did not see its meteoric rise. I've spent my entire time fighting against the slow decay of inactivity. I've known no other region than the UDS, and I'm determined to be the last member of the UDS. I wish that day never comes. I want to see the UDS that is prioritized to help people understand and join, like when I joined 2 years ago. I will be a senator who prioritizes a simple legislative code, keep the government doing only what it needs to.
That's some loyalty right there.
Or maybe he just plans to assassinate Thatcher. It's like 50-50.
Whoa.
So he assassinates Thatcher, you assassinate him, and then you get assassinated by Craig.
Yeah.
he would have to assassinate Craig then.
No, Craig is
Craig's a double agent, you know it.
Craig can't
is
be
all
killed.
the senators, and then Hakeem is Brutus.
Craig is Glac, and Glac is Cavo. So
yeah, no, yeah. I'm Cavo's puppet, but Craig is my puppet.
That was
Oh,
very
okay.
confusing.
Can I
Um,
very add to Hakeem's statement?
Cicero.
Cicero, I love Cicero. So I'd just like to add that I think that the UDS's best days are in front of it, even though we did have a higher population before, even though we did have the glory days with Zion Imperium before. I think that right now we are in a great and stable position, given that we've had 6 or 7 months of increasing population, or at least a consistent population, consistent embassy reports. I think that we're in a great spot, and we should be using this time, as I said, to pass fundamental legislation. But I think that our best days are still ahead of us. We still have many places to go as a community, and we are still a great UCR.
Okay, so do we have any more questions? Okay,
I think they're good. Yeah.
all right, I would like to thank everyone for coming here today. I would like to thank Comlogical for helping us host this, and for everyone who submitted questions. Good evening, good night. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for organizing this.
Yes.
What everybody else said.